Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here just to discuss a few of these nice little reprints from for Magic Origins. This is starting to look to be a very, very well-balanced set, a very exciting set for a number of reasons with just the amazing new mechanics. The flip planeswalkers are just very creative. I'm so excited to see how they play in the standard and modern environments. And we've had some awesome commander cards. We've had some awesome casual cards. We've had some great limited strategies with like all of the cards that get bigger when you have multiple copies of them. It always makes for an interesting draft when you can draft multiple of them. And now we are seeing legacy reprints in Origins. Goblin Piledriver, one of the cards that is like these staple pieces to Legacy Goblins, will now be available for Modern. In Standard, it will be good for now when you have. Well, you have Dragon Fodder and Hurling Outburst, so Goblin Piledriver is still going to be very good. Losing Rabblemaster will be, and what's the Foundry Street Denizen will be a little bit rough to try to make a Goblin themed deck, but look at his subclass is Warrior, which is pretty sweet. I mean, he can go into a Warriors deck. I don't know if you would want him quite in a Warriors deck, but I mean that's there. I mean, you could go for a Goblin Warriors type deck. The Bloodchin Rager could definitely go in that, because isn't Rabblemaster Warrior as well? I believe it is. And giving this guy even unblockable seems pretty good, or has to be blocked by 2 or more creatures seems pretty good. So there's that type of strategy. Hugely looking forward to Goblin Piledriver. I think that it's a perfect card that needs to be printed in Modern. It's going to give Goblins a lot more playability. As you can see, Tutor's Library just did a Goblins deck in Modern. I am working on a Collected Company Goblins deck in Modern, which I think is really powerful with the Tarkus Command and Collected Company for splashing for green. And you also get some other cool green-red goblins. I'll have to show you that brew that I'm working on, and I'll let you guys judge to see if it's worth it or not. So so this is funny. We do get our 1-mana Accelerant, and another 1-mana Accelerant in the form of Gnarlroot Trapper. Pay 1 life, add green to your mana pool. Spend this mana only to cast elf creature spells. Target attacking elf you control gains Death Touch. Well, I guess you can ramp out some elf. There seems like to be a lot of elves in this deck, or in this format. As Nissa is a pivotal piece to, and that is her tribe. She is an elf. So, anywho, let's go on to the elite here. When I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Enters the battlefield if you control another elf. Put a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token on the battlefield. So again, this is Elvish Mystic, though, not being reprinted might be maybe they just decided Elvish Mystic was just a little too powerful to go into this. You get a green elf warrior. Again, it's another warrior. So the warrior tribal theme with Sunblade Elf is a warrior. So elf warriors splash with any sort of warrior-based theme might actually be a thing. And then there's Sylvan Messenger. When it enters the battlefield, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all elf cards revealed this way in your hand. The rest on the bottom of your library. This is going to be a great card in... I don't know if it's going to quite see the modern playable. Was this one printed in Legacy? I can't remember if this one was a Legacy card or if it is legal in Modern. I swear this card's existed before. But can't quite get hit with Collected Company. But it's still a nice little... I think that this is competing too much with Collected Company's spot and might not see Modern play. Maybe as a 1 or 2 of it, but it's definitely a cool... Like, you could potentially get 4 elves from this. Statistically, you're probably only get 1 or 2. If you're running a 30 creature card deck, you're probably going to on average get 2, and sometimes get 3, sometimes get 1, and very rarely get 4, or very rarely get 0. So, anywho... That's going to be a great card to brew around as far as the elf tribal. I'm glad we're going into more of these tribal. I love tribal. I think the majority of players love tribal. Then we get the Soulblade Dijin. This is just going to be a filler, a nice rare to pick, though, in the form of limited. It's going to easily be a first pick, as whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creature control. So it's giving everything prowess in the format. And then this is a really cool card, the Viren Wingmare. This is Thalia. On a flying 2/1. I don't think that this is going to overtake Thalia. Thalia is just so much better. First Strike is comparable to flying, and the 2/1 body is the exact same, and Thalia comes out at a pivotal time, a turn earlier. That is huge in Modern, but we do have a Thalia for Standard, and it's a decent one. I think that they should have given this like another ability, like First Strike or something. I don't know. It just doesn't quite seem to get there as far as power level. By that time, by third turn, I mean, people have already been able to establish 3 mana, and that paying that extra 1 just to like bolt this off isn't that big of a deal by that point. Now, on to one of the most interesting cards I've ever brewed with. I've played this within a Knight deck before. I've played it in a Humans deck. I've played it in just a white aggro deck. Is Neither White Orchard. It's really cool because when it enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more lands than you get a Search Your Library or Plains card and put it on the battlefield. I use that in EDH quite a bit too, to go tutor up one of my, you can tutor up like a Godless Shrine, because it doesn't say basic. This one does for sure say Plains card. And you can also go get there's a few like Plains. One of them is the one that allows you to put a card on the bottom of your library from your graveyard. There is a few here and there throughout the history of Magic that count as Plains and also have abilities attached to them. So Neither White Orchard is a pretty cool card. And so juicy reprints happening. It also is a great 2-drop. 2 mana for a 2/2 First Strike. Great. It can give you a little bit of... See, you can actually, if you're on the draw, then your opponent already has 3 lands in play by the time you cast this. So you just hold off putting your 3-drop down. So on turn 3 is when you actually cast this, though. And then you cast it and then go get a land, and it can give you kind of that advantage. But you are sacrificing your turn 3 rather than putting this on your turn 2. But if you had a turn 2 drop and cast it, as well as the Neither White Orchard, you could always hold off and then turn 3. I mean, you got to kind of think of this as a 3-drop in that aspect. But even if you're behind on lands, you can always use the Neither White Orchard to get you back up there. So, anywho, really cool reprints. Let me know in the comments what you think about these. I don't know if I've talked about any of the other reprints. I think these were most of these were actually... Archangel of Tithes is one of them. Archangel of Tithes is a card that I'll probably try out in Soul Sisters. It is a mini ghostly prison attached to a creature with a 3/5 body, which is very relevant. It still dies to Dismember, though. So Dismember will kill it. It does survive Abrupt Decay. It does, of course, survive Lightning Bolt, and it usually will survive Tribal Flames. It's very hard for Tribal Flames decks to get up to 5. Usually they hit for 4. And it does survive Rending Volley, which is very relevant. Does not survive Combust, but Archangel of the Tithes, a 3/5. They have to block. When they block, they have to pay an extra mana. Very relevant in Soul Sisters when you're going a token-based route. It might make Secure the Wishes better than the Spectral Processions. We'll have to wait and see. And the good thing about this is it also forces your opponent to pay 1 to attack you for each creatures. That will start to shut down any sort of infinite combo when it comes to, like, if Storm is trying to go the Empty the Warrens route, or if the Splinter Twin is trying to attack with Deceiver Exarch tokens. They still have to pay 1 for each, and that will definitely shut that aspect down until they can actually kill it. So a lot of other filler cards here. It's one of the cool cards that the people have been talking about, Demonic Pact and all this cool stuff you can do with it. It might be a little bit too hard. 4 mana, deals 4 damage to target creature or player, you gain 4 life. Target opponent discards cards and draw 2 cards. Even after you get to choose all of those before you lose the game, I don't know if that's going to be impactful enough. I think that for 4 mana, there's times that you can get a lot more value out of that, especially when it has to wait a few turns. And then if you can't finish off the game, people are always talking about, hey, give this to your opponent. Yeah, that's going to be a cool little strategy with all the cards that let you go switcheroo. Switch a card. You use the first 3 and then give them Demonic Pact, and then they lose the game. And the Archive here is also kind of cool. When you gain life, gain twice that amount of life. So it's kind of like Rock's Faithmender on an artifact. 5 mana is a little bit boring, though. I think this is going to be kind of more of a commander type card. But the 2 cards actually here that I really think are cool are the Exquisite Firecraft, which deals 4 damage to target creature or player for 3 mana. All of those see play when they're in standard. Char saw play. Psychonic, the blue version of Char saw play. The War Leader's Helix saw play. Most of those I've been referring to have been instant speed, but as a finisher is a 4 mana, 4 damage spell, which is exactly what a burn wants. It, like, Stoke the Flames is an instant, I understand that, but 4 damage is very relevant even at sorcery speed. Usually to get up to that high, you're usually spending more mana, and the Spell Mastery, when it says it cannot be countered by spells or ability, that's pretty huge. If you have two more spells in your graveyard, sorceries and instances, which in a bird deck you're going to have this uncounterable. And there was a card called Urza's Rage back in the day that was very good because counter decks were everywhere, and it was one way to basically guarantee that you're going to get off 3 damage. Well, this is kind of guaranteeing you got 4, so I'd say that this is just as good. This is better than Urza's Rage. And in the right metagame, Urza's Rage at one point was the most expensive card in Standard. And in the right metagame, this could actually be a powerhouse. We'll just have to wait and see if that is very relevant. And then another card that I think is actually very underrated right now is Woodland Bellower. When Woodland Bellower enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a non-legendary green creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less and put it onto the battlefield. There are plenty of converted mana cost 3 or less cards that are deserving. This can go get your Death Mist Raptor. Probably most powerful 3-drop right now. And you could also 2-drop anything out of 3. Like right now, you can Goblin Rabblemaster. There's plenty. We'll have to look at all the 3 or less cards that Woodland Bellower. So you got to kind of add that on. For 6 mana, would you want to get a 6/5 and a 3/3 Death Toucher that recurs? That's 9 power for 6 mana. And even in Modern, I probably won't see you play in Modern because 6 mana is pretty tough. But there might be some degenerate combo with Woodland Bellower. Pod might have liked this because it would have went and got their Kitchen Finks. And right now, I don't. Of course, now that we don't have Pod, I don't think that Bellower. Another reason why Pod is banned. The more cards they keep printing, the more overpowered Pod gets. But there might be in some realm of Magic the Gathering some 3-drop that works perfectly with Woodland Bellower. I can think of like anything that gives haste. I know there is a Goblin gives all your creatures haste, and I have a 6/5 haster plus the Goblin. You can go get like Farika with Woodland Bellower or Athreos. I mean, those are 3 mana and put them on the battlefield. And any sort of 3 mana casting cost card that has any stipulations, like you might to cast it, you have to do something else. You can actually ignore that and just force it onto the battlefield. So I wonder if there's any like 1, 2, or 3 drops that have some sort of stipulation to cast. Like anything, we got to see anything that works with like Aether Vial that people cheat into play. Woodland Bellower is going to be able to get past that as well, which is just plain amazing. Great card, great design. It most likely will see play. It's going to see a lot of play with Devotion right off the bat, I would think, and might just replace some of the higher drops. It's really competing with the Woodland Elemental, though, and that's Woodland Elemental puts in a 2/2 immediately at the end of turn for 1 less mana, and continues to do that. So I wonder if those 2 are compete for the same space, or you might just put a deck that plays both of them and just plays Value City. So anyway, this equipment right here basically says that equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each aura. This is kind of a weird design because it's equipment that reads onto auras. I don't think Boggles quite wants it, but it's definitely a cool design, especially since we are coming out of an enchantment-based set. This might actually, like Courser Crewfix will read it. No, it's aura, so it won't read itself. I believe it. Let me see if we can find exactly what it says. Oh no, it is for each enchantment. So Courser Crewfix will read itself. So I mean, it might be able. It's 1 mana and 1 equip. That's huge. And so it might be able to go in the right deck and be a significant equipment. So usually 1 mana equipments and 1 equip are what you want to see in a deck, because you don't want to be using too much. You don't want to be dumping too much mana into equipment unless it does something amazing. So anywho, another cool news is this is pretty much guaranteeing we don't have fetch lands out of the Battle for Zendikar, or the enemy colored fetch lands, because we have the enemy colored lands. I stated that to begin with. Wizards is not going to print the fetch lands in Battle for Zendikar. They don't want all fetch lands in the same standard. They're going to wait 1 more cycle to print them. Plus, they're going to wait for them to continue to go up in value so that you, the consumer, will be justified in buying overpriced booster packs. I mean, it's just their business model right now. It's the same thing. Snapcaster Mage probably won't get a reprint till the next Modern Masters. They need chase cards for you to justify buying the cards. And a lot of people are disappointed with that, saying, hey, we need the price point of Modern to go down. And every time you reprint sets, it just the speculators eat up the stock, and it just increases the values of all the other staples that don't get reprinted, and sometimes don't even make a dent in the cards that are reprinted. So, but, you know, it's a fine line to draw. If they just reprint everything like crazy, we run into like the comic book industry problem that collapses their market, and then everything becomes valueless. And then people, you know, my deck needs to have some sort of value to justify me collecting it. And it's also kind of cool when cards go up. You feel like you're a genius for getting into a deck that when they go up. So yeah, it's just a necessary evil, I think, to Magic the Gathering to have value in our cardboard or in our pixels on MTGO. So let me know what you think about these. Let's discuss these spoilers. I think we've got some great ones. Piledriver. Wow. Goblin Piledriver is just nutty. That's awesome. I'm so glad that it's in Standard again. I'm so glad it's in Modern. You may know me as someone that does not particularly like control, and this is going to give me one of those cards to combat control, which is lovely. Anyway, this has been Kevin. Oh, let me just talk about though, ultimate price does exist in the format. So if everyone's gonna be crying too much about Goblin Piledriver, there's a 2-mana spell that takes care of it. There's still lightning strikes. There's still plenty of ways. There's right now there's still Drown in Sorrow, and so I don't think the Goblin Piledriver is gonna warp the metagame whatsoever. Anyway, this has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.